you said President Trump wouldn't be on that list. So then, is he trying to protect someone? Why are some of these names not coming out? Is it because nobody can identify who these people are? Lisa, what's the real truth?
Well, that's the whole reason why everyone wants the files released, is because most people don't know the truth. People are just speculating. Each survivor has little pieces of the puzzle. And everyone who knew Jeffrey has little pieces of the puzzle, but nobody knows everything. I mean, because that's how Jeffrey was. He wasn't out there. He wasn't a playboy. He wasn't like a P. Diddy that everybody knew everything, about them and knew what was going on. Most people didn't know anything what was going on unless they were the one that was, involved. So
you're
I don't know how much Rita and I can give you real answers.
No celebrities, no politicians who you could identify?
I definitely wouldn't do it here.
No, I'm not asking names, but I'm just saying that, we're talking about a circle of power. So were they celebs? Were they politicians, present or past? Anybody you can recall, identify, even if you don't want to say the names?
There's a lot of people involved, so.
I can say one thing is a lot of money. These people had a lot more money than we did. And some of them had more money than Jeffrey.
Okay.
More power too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're just all saying the obvious here.
I mean, this is, it's part of the reason why we know that there's something there. There's this big smoke and mirrors. There's a big mystery, but also there's the whole power imbalance.
Something conference and the fact that you want the truth to come out. Do you think the truth will ever come out if there is so much of smokes and mirrors? Jeffrey Epstein is no longer in this world. Do you think there will ever be a full disclosure? There can ever be a full disclosure? Lisa, Rena?
I personally think no one really truly, even if they had all the information in front of them, the data, would truly understand what they're looking at because it's so much information at the moment. There needs to be a long-term study of the predator and his behavior and everyone that was connected to him because the files are not 100,000 pages. They're not even 500,000 pages. I'm sure they're in excess of millions. And, they're not just names. There are phone numbers. There are, addresses, bank accounts. There are files of just those who were victimized. And then the people that they knew, that they were friends with, their workplaces. This is a huge octopus that keeps growing and growing and growing. And the more we probe into it, the more information we start looking for. But right now, all we have are the 33,000 pages they just released recently, Ghislaine's transcripts, the depositions from different court cases, and the previous files that were released earlier this year. And we're trying to sort of look at this pile of evidence and information and starting to look for other pieces of the puzzle. Okay, so now the public started demanding, well, we see all of this in front of us. Where's the client list? Because allegedly there's a client list. Allegedly there were girls who were trafficked. The word traffic has been going around for a while. So now they started calling it a client list. So if we took the word client list out and just said, who were the guys around Jeffrey that were just hanging around him that had a lot of money? Let's start with that. I think it would sound a little different, and less dangerous. for people to start identifying, well, these were the people who had money. It doesn't mean that every person who had money did something. Maybe it was a friend of theirs. You know, as Lisa said, a lot of these men or women or whoever they are, the girls don't even remember their names. They don't even remember what they look like. They were just very average looking people who had a lot of money.
Okay. But I'm just quoting this, Lisa. Trump has said this about Epstein. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It has even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side, no doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Is this just friendly banter to make something out of this? The fact
it sounds to me like what anybody would have said in the early 2000s that I met that new Jeffrey. That's exactly what everybody would say about him. And when they meant who they like, he likes girls on the younger side. He was probably talking like 18 to 22. That's what most people back then assumed. I don't think a lot of people knew about the underage. That was a very secret thing between Jeffrey and Glenn. And I think a lot of survivors are just scared for files to be released and their names are in it. I mean, if the survivors' names can be redacted, that's great, but you release all this information, some, sensitive material for the survivors might be out there.
That's something I will emphasize on. I think all the survivors, they agree when we say we want our names to be redacted, and I'm speaking not just for myself, but Lisa agrees. Especially those girls that were so young, it's not fair to have their names and their privacy violated again. It's like this is another form of violation. We were sexually assaulted, sexually violated, psychologically violated, and then to have our information made public in such a, it's just not right. I don't think the details should be in those files. The government has seen them. I think there should be a full redaction or just censorship of the sex abuse details. I get a lot of voyeurs, a lot of, creepy people that come up to me who know my name is out there, who will just start asking questions as if they have the right, the entitlement to say, well, what did you do when you went in that room? And did he use XYZ on you? And is it like the other girls that have come before? Did he do the same thing to you? And this really makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of other survivors don't want to be identified. They don't want to speak. And I am speaking to several of, the survivors who have participated in these lawsuits, but they don't want to be seen. They don't want to talk to other people, and they're not receiving mental health treatment as a result of all of this type of behavior.
The DOJ, somebody in his private capacity did say they would redact Republican names but keep the Democrat names out there, and then that was officially denied. Do you think there is a cover-up that's going on?
There's always a cover-up everywhere that's going around. There was a cover-up when Ghislaine was giving her testimony. There was a cover-up when they were taking evidence from Epstein's house because where did all the tapes disappear to? There's always a cover-up in every investigation, but we don't know to the extent of the cover-up. I would say more like redaction than a cover-up. Maybe they're just not telling us everything. And maybe the public, maybe we're not ready to really see the true evil of Jeffrey Epstein. I know they're demanding more information, but I think it needs to come out in little increments. This man was super, super evil. The evil of Epstein did not die with him. The evil of Epstein right now seems to be spreading even further, as we're learning more about this man. When Lisa and I knew Jeffrey, we just knew him as this kind of like old creepy guy who had a lot of money and he liked having a lot of girls around him. as the years went on, after I left, I started, Googling his name. I started seeing him with more powerful people. And then as the years went on, he started engaging in even worse behavior than what I remembered. So he went from being a monster to the monster just kept growing and growing, and the evil just kept coming out of him. And after he died, we started seeing more information coming out through these investigations. People were conducting investigations, and then the reporters were doing their own investigation, and more information just started coming out in bits and pieces. And once the doors opened, it started pouring out, and it was just so much information that was just being fed to us all at the same time. I ended up having a mental breakdown. I ended up in the hospital. I got traumatized. There were memories that I was not ready to face that were just thrown in my face with all the information that was being flooded in the news, and people were talking about it constantly. So even for not just speaking on my behalf, but I think even for the public to not traumatize the entire world, we need to do this in little steps. And there needs to be a process of even bringing the information to light.
At one point, you've said that Epstein asked you if you wanted to meet a prince. So clearly there were royals, and there were, some of those people in the circle of power who might still exist today.
I was referring to the first time that I met him. That's what he said to me. The very first time.
And could you identify some of those royal princes?
Well, I mean, the reason why I spoke out in 2020 was because I had met a prince, and I had a girlfriend who allegedly had said that, Jeffrey made her do something with a prince. So I initially was speaking out on her behalf because of my experience of seeing something. So, I mean, that's in documentaries. You could see that clearly. It's in a few documentaries I've mentioned that. And I felt like I was doing the right thing to speak out just to support survivors. I didn't at the time, I thought it would have been a lot easier, because to find the facts and to connect the dots and to prosecute. And I realized that it wasn't easy for those survivors to come forward and share their experience and put their perpetrator behind bars. It just wasn't easy. It hasn't happened. And I think the more cases that came forward and the more times that these criminals didn't get prosecuted, I mean, nobody has except for Ghislaine. I think survivors just wanted to stay silent. They kept thinking there's no way I can go against this powerful person. Why am I even going to bother? Even though there might have been 2 or 5 or 10 others, nobody wanted to talk anymore once Virginia went forward and she didn't find justice. So actually she got threatened, and there was all sorts of things happened. So I think when survivors started speaking out in the beginning, we were very hopeful, and then now it's been 6 years, and we're starting to just think a little differently, think outside the box, and be a little more clever about finding what we need to find some progress.